Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I've got a very interesting video. I'm going to be trying to predict the next 3 blockbuster deals that will happen between now and the start of the 2025-2026 NHL season. These are some very outlandish ones, so take it with a grain of salt, but I'll discuss all 3 of these blockbuster deals that I feel could very likely happen in the very near future coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for more videos coming out in the very near future. So in today's video, I'm going to try and predict the next 3 blockbuster deals. Those are 3 of the bigger players that are on the trade market right now that could wind up being dealt. I'm going to be predicting where they're landing, what the return is for their current teams, and which team wound up winning that deal. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on each of these 3 deals down in the comment section below, and what was your opinion on all 3 of these moves. So to start off, we're going to be probably doing, in my opinion, the most likely trade of these 3 trades, and it's the one that I think could happen soonest, and that's going to be between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets, a Metro Division trade. We've heard the Columbus Blue Jackets have been linked in the past, over the past couple of weeks, to Bryan Rust. We know the Jackets had a lackluster offseason. They acquired Charlie Coyle in a trade with Colorado. They acquired Isaac Landstrom in free agency. Besides that, and bring back Provorov and Fabro, not really a whole bunch of movement here from the Blue Jackets this offseason. And we know they really want to try and take that next step to make the playoffs next year. So in order to do that, I'm going to say that the Columbus Blue Jackets will trade for Bryan Rust. The trade is as follows. The Columbus Blue Jackets will trade for Bryan Rust from the Pittsburgh Penguins and give up a top 10 protected 2026 first round pick, Charlie Ehrlich, and Yegor Chinakov. I think this is a deal that works out for both sides for the Jackets. Chinakov is currently, it sounds like, requesting a trade. He doesn't want to be in Columbus. You add Bryan Rust, he's instantly an upgrade over Chinakov. He can fit in their top 6. He easily becomes one of their best players. Definitely one of the more experienced players. He can play in the top line, he can play in the second line, he can play with a guy like Fantilli, he can play with a Kent Johnson, he can play with a Kromachenko. Like, there are a lot of spots on that top 9 that Bryan Rust could play. He signed for a couple more seasons. His cap isn't overly egregious, and the Jackets have cap space to play with. I sort of like this deal from the Jackets side. They have to give up a top deep prospect, but they already have guys like McTavish and recently drafted Smith in their system, so they could afford to lose a guy like Charlie Ehrlich. They give up a top 10 protected first round pick, which, if everything goes right for Columbus next year, will be all right because they're going to be in the playoffs. And they give up Chinakov, who wants a fresh start. In my opinion, this is a perfect deal for the Jackets, and it also sort of fits what Pittsburgh is looking for. The Penguins get an extra first round pick for next year, which, if the Columbus Blue Jackets wind up having an atrocious season, could be another lottery selection for McKenna, which we know the Penguins are desperately trying to add. They also get Charlie Ehrlich, who I think long term could be a solid top 4 right shot defenseman for that Pittsburgh Penguins team, especially if they move off of a guy like Erik Karlsson. Like, I think long term he could be the Erik Karlsson replacement, probably a couple of years time, but I think that could be a really solid pickup here for the Penguins. And they get Yegor Chinakov. Chinakov's an established NHL young forward, the premium thing that Kyle Dubas is trying to get right now, young NHL players. So I think Chinakov could step into the top 9, be a solid 20-25 goal scorer, 40-45 point player. Need a new deal next offseason, so the Penguins will probably have cap space to sign him, and Chinakov will get his first start. Like, I think this sort of a deal will work out for both sides. The Jackets get a forward upgrade, and the Penguins get a future-based package that could help them both now with Chinakov and in the future with that first round pick and Ehrlich. So very interesting out there, but this is a deal I do think both sides win from, so I'd love your guys' thoughts on this deal. The second deal I have is a deal that's been mentioned quite a bit since he said that he only wants to sign in Vegas, and that is a deal between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Calgary Flames, and this will be a blockbuster deal. The trade will be as follows. The Vegas Golden Knights acquire Rasmus Andersson with 50% of his contract retained and sign him to a 7-year contract extension with an AAV of $6.6 $2.75 million from the Calgary Flames in exchange for Jackson Hallam, Ben Hutton, and a 2028 top 10 protected first round pick. So very interesting out there. This is a deal that I definitely think Vegas would do. They're able to have Calgary eat half of his contract, so it's not a bad deal there for Vegas because they get him and they're able to still remain under the cap because they move off of Ben Hutton's contract. They move off of Jackson Hallam, a first round pick. Hallam's probably one of their better prospects at this point in time, and they give up another future first round pick, but they get Andersson. If you add Andersson and you don't subtract anything major off of that defense, you could have a top 6 on the blue line of Andersson and Hanifin, the former top pair of the Flames defense, Theodore McNabb, and Whitecloud and Korzak. That would probably be a top 5, if not the top defense in the entire NHL. So if the Golden Knights were able to pull it off and didn't have to move off anything major on their blue line, that would be a steal and a half for the Vegas Golden Knights on the trade market, especially if they were able to extend Rasmus Andersson. You have Andersson, Hanifin, and Theodore signed for years. That would be great for Vegas. For the Flames side, it's probably not one of the better returns they could get, but I definitely think they might be cornered here given the fact Andersson, it sounds like, really only wants to sign with Vegas. They get a first round pick in a couple of years' time. They already have Vegas' 2026 first rounder because of the Hanifin deal, so they get another future first rounder, which at that point in time, they can move off as trade fodder if they're doing that good. They get Jackson Hallam, who I'm not sure will make the NHL lineup this year, but had a couple of really good seasons over in college, and I do think long term is going to be a stellar middle 6 forward for the Calgary Flames long term, potentially as a center or a winger. And they also get Ben Hutton, who can play in the third pair. He's in the final year of his deal. They can move him in the trade deadline if they're on the outside looking in, and he can be a solid, serviceable 6'7" defenseman. So is it the greatest of returns for the Calgary Flames? No, and I think of those two teams, Calgary will probably be the most likely one to say no, but I definitely do think it could wind up helping them, especially if Hallam pans out and the first round pick works out for the Calgary Flames. So we're going to have to wait and see on this sort of a deal. Love your guys' thoughts on who you think won this one, but that's an interesting deal I have with Vegas acquiring Rasmus Andersson. And the last one I have here is between the Anaheim Ducks and the Ottawa Senators. Right now there's a lot of speculation about Mason McTavish being traded in the offseason at some point. He hasn't signed a new deal yet. He's currently an RFA. He's not headed to arbitration, so that's a lot of people think Anaheim could trade McTavish. Now McTavish actually has connections to Ottawa, including his dad working for the Ottawa Senators. So I have the Senators pulling off a blockbuster deal to acquire Mason McTavish and sign to an extension. And the trade is as follows. The Ottawa Senators acquire Mason McTavish, sign him to a 5-year extension with an AAV of $7.25 million. And in exchange, the Anaheim Ducks acquire the Ottawa Senators 2027 top 10 protected first round pick, David Perron, as well as Stephen Halliday. So this is an interesting move that I think could help both sides. For the Senators, I know Perron's been a really good player. He was a fantastic fit last year in the middle 6. You move him to get Mason McTavish. Like, you do that all day. Do they have to move off one of their top prospects in Halliday? Yes. A future first round pick? Yes. But imagine this team with Mason McTavish. You could put McTavish on the wing. You could put him at the center. You could have a top 6 of Giroux, Tkachuk, Stützle, Batherson, Cozens, McTavish. And let's not even include guys like Zetterlund, Pinto, and Gregg. Like, this Ottawa Senators team, if they add McTavish, could have one of, if not the best, top 9s in the entire NHL. And on top of that, 7.25 AAV would keep them just a hair under the cap by about $1 million, which would allow them to have some wriggle room to call up and send down players, especially if they run into some injuries. So very interesting note there, but I think for the Senators, you do this deal all day, and McTavish just makes that team that much better. For the Ducks, if they do want to move McTavish, they're going to want a whole bunch of really solid pieces in return. They get a 2027 first round pick, which at the trade deadline this year, they could try and flip to try and get some upgrades at the trade deadline if they are, which I'm expecting to be a playoff team. They also get David Perron, who's in the final year of his deal, $4 million AAV. He can help in middle 6, sort of be another veteran presence along with guys like Kreider and Granlund, which they've already added. And they get Stephen Halliday. Halliday, I think, is sort of an underrated prospect. I think long term has the potential to be a solid middle 6 guy. Could potentially even be a second line center at the NHL level. possible. And I do think his wicked shot in the AHL and his point producing abilities in the AHL might be a little bit underrated. I think Halliday is one of the Senators' top prospects at this point in time. So I think for the Ducks, that might be the reason why they pull the trigger on this deal to get Halliday. So in my opinion, it's a solid deal. It gets the Ducks a solid veteran middle six guy in Perron, a future top 6 forward in Halliday, and a first round pick, and it gets the Senators a top 9 upgrade in McTavish, which gives them one of the best top 9s in the entire NHL. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on all 3 of these deals, and which one of these deals you think winds up happening, or is more likely to happen, or is least likely to happen. What do you think of the Russ deal, the McTavish deal, and the Andersson deal? Definitely get your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below, and leave your opinion on all 3 of these deals. That's all I'm going to talk for today. We're going to like this video, and for like to subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Also, a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis. If you guys want to check that out, the link to that in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.